Today we're going to learn how to make a super slick reflection effect in Canva using a few simple techniques. And you can apply these techniques to anything, not just the text that I show you today. In fact, it means you can technically go from this random bunch of pictures to this in a few simple steps. Stick around to the end so I can show you an extra special editing technique. And don't forget to like and subscribe below. My name's Colette. Let's go and think wonky. Okay, let's do this. Step 1, type the text and choose a font. Be sure that the base of each letter sits on the horizon and doesn't dangle below. A really great way to check your horizon is to use rulers and grid lines. You can either click outside of the canvas and press Shift and R, or go to File in the top left and click Show Rulers and Guides. This opens a vertical and horizontal ruler in your workspace. Next, go to the top of your workspace and click the horizontal ruler, then drag the purple guideline down to the base of the text. This will form your horizon. As you can see in this example, a few of the letters have tails that drop below the horizon. This is not going to work when creating a reflection. This font also isn't going to work. So choose a font that has a tidier base, something like this one. Don't worry if there is some overhang from the round bottomed letters. This is just a natural part of typeface design. Okay, to create a reflection. First, we must convert the text into an image. If you want coloured or black text, simply change the colour of the text and download it as a transparent PNG. However, if you want white text, you'll need to change the background colour to yellow and then download it as a transparent PNG. This means that when it downloads, it will remove the yellow background and leave you with the white text as an image. Once you've got your PNG, re-upload it back to Canva, duplicate the image, flip it vertically, and position below the horizon, directly beneath the original. Simple, right? But even if you just lower the transparency, it still doesn't make a very sophisticated reflection. So let's look at some ways to make it special, and don't forget to stick around to the end where I'll teach you a really snazzy technique. The simplest way to make any reflection is to reduce the transparency. If you couple this with a blur, so go to Edit Image, Adjust and See All, you can still get a fairly nice reflection, but this isn't the most sophisticated effect. It might work for a very quick graphic, but if you're looking for something a bit slicker, you'll need to go a little bit further. Before we go on, let me give you a pro tip. One of the best ways to check text effects and graphics, in fact this is used by many designers to double check logos and how logos work, is to check your effect without any colour. So that's have a black background and white text, or vice versa. So let's make this background black. We'll start with two different techniques to fade the blur. Essentially what we do is we try to keep the feet, that bit touching the horizon, more in focus, whereas the bit that's furthest away from the horizon is going to fizzle away. The first method is really simple, and that's to use the blur brush. If you don't know what the blur brush is, go to Edit Image and just look for the blur tool. The blur tool is a really handy effect. It allows you to use a brush to blur different parts of your image. It's great for blurring out bits of text or faces that you want to remain anonymous, but it's also super handy as an art tool. Okay, so in the blur tool, in the control panel, you can change the intensity and spread of the blur to suit the design that you're going for. So you may need to play around with this to get the effect that is most suitable for the kind of reflection you're looking for. For this particular reflection, I'm going to blur across the tip of the letters first. The pink line handily tells you where you have already blurred. If it's not quite right, you can quickly undo by either clicking Restore or by pressing Command and Z on a Mac or Control and Z on a PC. If you've got time, it's worth playing with the blur brush until you get the effect that feels right, and then just click done to see the result. Again, don't worry if the result is not really what you're looking for. You can quickly undo it and just try again. In this example, you can see the letter tips are now more blurred than the letter feet. At this point, you can also add an overall blur to the whole reflection and adjust the transparency, and it can create quite a nice effect. However, the second technique that I'm going to show you is probably my favourite, although it can depend on the look and feel of the project, and the technique that I'm going to show you at the end of this video is pretty special. Start your image as usual and go to the liquify tool, then select the whirl effect. The whirl effect moves and whirls the top and bottom edges of an image. You can change the positioning of this whirl effect to affect more of the tips, more of the feet, or a little of both. In this case, I want to make the tips blurred. As you can see, it slightly stretches the tips, which I really quite like. Play around with the whirl tool to get the effect that you like, then click apply. If you wish, you can always use the blur brush on top of this effect, and you can use adjust to add a little blur to the whole reflection. It's looking quite good, right? We're definitely getting there, but it's not quite right yet. Head over to Elements and search for a transparent background. Some of the transparent backgrounds you can change the colour really easily, but for this tutorial I'm going to go for this red one and just show you another technique that might come in handy on another day. Go to Edit Image, reduce the brightness and the saturation, then increase the contrast. If you need to, you can also lower the shadows, which gives a really black feel to the base of that transparent gradient. Now for some magic. Position the transparent gradient over the reflection to add a gentle fade. Duplicate and position the gradient a little higher or lower to soften the fade. You can duplicate this transparency again if you need. In fact, let me show you what I mean. Now, I promised you a bonus. I'm going to show you how to make your reflection more watery. As before, you need to duplicate the top text and repeat it underneath. Go to liquify, then use the shake function. Play with the thick distort and fine distort functions or features in the control panel to get the effect or look that you desire. Click apply, then go back to liquify and use the whirl tool in the same way that I showed you previously. Add a blur, reduce transparency. Now let's put it on a lake. It's a good idea when positioning any kind of reflection text on a reflection image to find an image where the reflection is on an even horizon. This one will do. Position the text and the reflection along the horizon. Now, since in this case the text is white and the sky is also very white, I'm going to darken the image to improve the contrast. I think that looks quite nice. I'm going to play with the saturation too. This is where you can get quite creative with how your images may look. And of course, you can also add a gradient. And your gradient can be any colour you choose. Ta-da! If you want to take your reflections next level, you can also use the text pop effect from a previous video and apply them to the text before inverting them to make your reflections. always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe, and don't be afraid to comment. Let me know if you've got questions, feedback, or anything at all, and I'll be happy to reply.